I would love to have Michael Kim on the show.
He probably would do it. He's following, I was saying this last night with Kenny, but he's trying to, it's like the Max Homa formula. It's like now he's becoming very likable on here. His posts are still, some are funny, some are informative. Goes with that. He's hoping to get that, the Max run.
Like I do the course research show every single week. Even if Mike's got some time, 20 minutes on a Tuesday, I will talk to him about the next week's course. And I can add that into the research show of a guy who's played the course and is currently playing in the field. I think that'd be cool.
Everyone should tag him and just say, hey,
you should go on with Pat.
You should go on the PME and talk about some of the stuff. He loves your stuff. He just preached it on the show today. Go to this mark, or someone can clip this and then put you on there and show him that, hey, we like your stuff. Post on one of his recent threads and see if you can get him on. It'd be an awesome guy to have on your show.
The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. American Express, DraftKings picks, the lineups, the ownership, the preview. We're going head-to-head with Tambo and maybe even reviewing how well I did last week. In fact, I can guarantee you we are going to do that, how well I did last week on DraftKings. Thanks to you. You helped me build some lineups, and there's a key thing in there that I wanted to talk through when I was constructing my lineups that you put me onto, which I really appreciate. For one thing, I know Sam, who tweeted us, who won the Big 250.
Smart.
Do you play Taylor? Do you play Pendrith? Why don't you play them both?
We've done this
every $20K.
All kinds of shows. We've done this, football, golf, everything. And it's so funny that he said that was the tidbit that sort of tipped him off and got there. So congrats to Sam. Love to see something like that.
Yeah, and it's always fun to go through it, that where we're making lineups on the show. The whole point isn't play the same lineups that we're playing. The whole point is we're talking through how to construct the lineup. You make your own choices, and you can see what we're doing in the strategy behind it. And I didn't end up with one of those lineups, and he did.
Yeah, good for him. That was awesome. And like I said, sometimes that's the case. You're comparing two guys or making cases for both of them. And the answer is just to play them both, especially when they're value plays like that can make everything else work that you want to have happen.
The Listeners League is now open. It's down in the description. So please, let's get that filled up as quickly as possible. So hopefully I can get the link early next week, because golf starts early next week. Golf starts on a Wednesday, so it does not coincide with the NFL championship game weekend, which I think that every tournament during January should do. All these tournaments should start on Wednesday.
Or start golf in February. One of the two.
No, I like the Hawaii swing.
It's fine. I'm just saying either or. They play a lot of events. I think that's part of the lackluster of what people have said they've had out of it. Like last week wasn't anything special. I know.
Really, I there was a point on, maybe because I had a giant sweat, so it's a little bit different.
I had a huge sweat.
But I went main screen golf, secondary screen, that awful Cowboys game.
Yeah. That's the same thing, but football wasn't much better either. I won't lie, but I mean, some of the games were really good. But golf, I just, awesome ending. I had a huge sweat. I had a Keegan 60-1 ticket. I ended up needing Grayson to win. He got the job done for me. So thanks to Grayson there, we get through and have some news on that as well. King of the Desert.
Yes. We're going to, actually, I should say that you should join Fantasy National, fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get your 20%. That's where I did my research. My research show is a walkthrough of that. That came out on Sunday. If you're ever interested in checking that out. The Jeff Show is out as well, too. And my newsletter, that's where my column exists right now. So it's like 3,000 words in there this week. It's free to join, but that's the only place where you can get it. So please go in there, share it around, too, so more people know that the article now exists in there. That would be very helpful for me. And the code Mayo at Ship It Nation, extending it a week.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that too real quick. So just a lot of people joined. Thank you guys. Appreciate the support. Obviously, it's nice. The Discord's been popping off. Another huge week over at Ship It Nation. You can check it out on X at Ship It Nation to go see the pinned message up top there. The post shows everything with it. But we will extend it one more week. So you have another chance to get in using code Mayo, getting 10% off the introductory pricing. What's going to happen is somebody who buys a month goes into the draw with all the others that already bought a month. They will get upgraded to the season-long pass right through till September 1st. After the playoffs, everything. Somebody who buys the season pass gets it for $179 right now with introductory pricing, less than 10% with code Mayo, will get their money back and get in for free. So that's the contest. That's going to keep running for that one. Do you want to do the other one now?
You will do the other one now, but I want to walk you through how, although a lot of people lost money with Grayson Murray winning, so the Keegan outrights, Jeff had the Ben and outrights,
yeah.
But for you, it actually turned out to be really good in hindsight, and it's going to turn out to be pretty good for the people.
Yeah, full circle on that one. I posted it out yesterday. It was pretty crazy. Like Joel Damon missing the 4-footer brought all these -2s back in the King of the Desert round 1, which was a 150-person tournament you had to qualify to. Went in. I had 2 seats. One of them had a good shot. I was one of like 12 or 14 -3 or better 6 of 6 teams. So if the cut line had stayed at -3, would have been a lock to get through. When Damon misses the putt and it goes to -2, all the chalk is starting to get through. It ends up being 58%, 6 of 6, only 33% get through. The top 50 move on to round 2. Wild weekend, full circle comes down to the end. Basically needed, there was 5 teams ahead of me that had one of Ann or Bradley and a couple with both, where you would obviously lose the 10 position placement points from first when they fall back in the playoff if they lose. Need Grayson, hits a horrible tee shot, game over, I'm thinking. No, there's other stuff that happens. He makes that big long bomb, and then it comes back to a very short putt that is missed, that ends up popping me into 48th place. So we are moving on to round 2, King of the Desert. It's 50 people moving on, or 50 people go to round 2. 15 will move on to Arizona at the Waste Management Phoenix Open to play for up to $500,000. And Pat, I said we got to run it back. King of the Beach tried to give away $30,000. Get close on it. It's easier on these numbers. It's $500K to first. We'll do 5%, so up to $25,000 cash. Be a 5x5. 5 $5,000 winners. It's going to be for the top 3. So if I finish in the top 3, again, I still have to get through this week, but we're going there early trying to do it. If I finish in the top 3, I think it's $100,000 to third for $5,000. It's $250,000, I think, for second, and then the $500,000 for first will be $25,000. 5 winners of $5,000 if we get to that spot and win the King of the Desert. So we'll come up with a plan for the giveaways, but for right now, whatever you want it to be, I think it's going to be comments and
yeah, the biggest one that you guys
reviews.
always do for me, I just need you to either, you can do it, you can get into one of the draws 3 ways, let's say. You subscribe to the newsletter, that will get you a ballot. If you're already subscribed, you're already in. It's easy stuff. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Turn on those auto downloads and then rate it 5 stars. And then that's 3 ways you can get in. Apple, Spotify, newsletter, boom. That will get you in the draw. And hey, maybe you can win $5,000.
Yeah, we'll come up with 3. We'll come up with more for the Ship It side. Just go to the Ship It Nation YouTube station. Go under videos. There's a PGA launch video talking about our product there that Pat's offering up his discount code MAYO for 10% on. You can go see it there. Comment on that video. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your DK username. Wish me luck. Whatever you want to do on there to make it easy so that we can know that it's you and you got in for this contest.
All right, so let's go back just a second because those minus, I won the $5 this weekend, so that was really nice.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you
nice,
very much.
Nice.
I knew as soon as Keegan took the lead and I didn't have Keegan and I was still up by like 15, I was like, oh, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what happened in the playoff for me because I was up by 11 going into it, and then everyone, like I had Ann, but everyone else behind me had either Ann or Keegan. Mm-hmm. No one had Grayson, so it really didn't make a difference. It's funny winning. Very rarely do you win a GPP without having the winner in golf.
Yeah, I think it was, we figured out the math yesterday, 35 teams, and even the big $20 was like 35 teams had them. So you just weren't going to get there.
So this kind of goes back to the point that you've been emphasizing to me for a while, that when I talk about these, bottom end guys, like, oh, do I want to play Duffner this week or John Pack at 6,000 and jam everyone in? I made 2 sets of lineups. I played like the 7 or 8 that we played on the show. I threw those in the contest. And then I played 2 separate ones. I built out my player pool on Fantasy National, and I think it had like 20 guys in it. It had like Hatton at the top. But then I was like sprinkled in with some of the $6,000 jabronis that we had talked, like Bobby Mack was in there. There was like 3 or 4 of them. Mm-hmm. But then what I did, Dumont Deschales was in there. Then I condensed it. So I made 15 lineups with those 20 guys, generated those. And then I made another 12 lineups, and I cut out everyone above $10,000 and everyone below 7,000. Like the cheapest guy I had was Ben Coles in my lineup. And I know Chirac was 7,100, but I cut him from the pack too. I was like, that's more of a flyer type play. Ben Coles is like a real guy at this point. And I had played him in our head-to-head against you. So I was like, yeah, I might as well ride with this guy. So I shrunk my player pool down to, I think it was like 16 or 17 guys, but no one in the 6,000s, no one in the 10,000s. And then I made like another 12 lineups with those. And that's where my winning lineup came from. In fact, all of my good lineups were those ones. And when I scanned the leaderboard, there was one guy with Crazy Carl for a while, and then he ended up falling off a cliff. That you don't need the $6,000 guys, especially in a tournament like this, where it's not a super strong field, that these guys in the 6,000s, we can say that there's not like a marginal, like a markable difference between 6,500 and 7,200. And that's true, but no one is literally playing these guys. So you don't need to play them either.
Yeah, it's typically the way it always is. Again, it's tougher when it's a guy like Grayson who was only on 35 teams, 0.08%. So I get that angle of it.
But even if Crazy Carl won,
right?
I probably still would have won.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. Exactly what you just said is even when you get to a guy there was so many guys, like our guy Sky Hoke posts out all of it. Skylar posted on X and puts all stuff out there. You see there's so many guys at 1 to 2%. All those guys that even if you have them at 10%, you're like, I got all the leverage on this guy, and you do play 150 and you've got them in 15 lineups. Well, within those 15 lineups, there's also a dispersion of mid guys and top guys and all this other stuff that you've got built in there. So only if you got Keegan and Keegan ended up winning, let's say, but your guy is still the guy that comes in as the value play. How many of those in those 15 where you have that guy, you're way over the field at 10%, but you have one with Keegan. And now, what about those other 4 spots? That's what I'm trying to explain. And people just don't get it. They just, if I just get this guy right, it's all going to go my way. Well, you have to really get them right, and then it might still not go your way.
And it's funny because, I mean, you've been telling me that for 2 years, and it never really clicked until this week when I looked, I was like, oh yeah, I don't need these guys.
Yeah.
At all.
We're blanketing it too with the entire 6K range, but typically it is more of like what you said of like just this darling that I need to make work because I heard this stat.
Harrison Endicott this week.
Yeah, talk about it. Go ahead.
I mean, I bet him 400 to 1 because he's sober. Yeah. And everyone's going to bet him because he's sober, and that's like the narrative this week. But I mean, I don't care at 400 to 1.
No, sure.
I put $5 on the each way. It pays $2,500.
But I like
that'll be a good investment for me.
I like the bet better too. Like even Kenny last night was trying to say to me, he's like, I'm going to get him with the 8 places at 250. I was like, buddy, you're betting him for a narrative that he wins because he's sober. So just bet him for the full number. Like it either happens or it doesn't, and get him at the 5 places at 400 and be happy. Like it doesn't really matter at this point. So yeah, I mean, he does have I think he came 22nd here last year. We did kind of like dig in. Could we actually sell ourselves on this? A lot of people that I know and respect out there and put their articles out and their bets and looking up the tidbits early are on this guy. And I don't think it's just because of the number. Like they're listing a few other little tidbits about him. So we'll see.
Well, he could be a totally different player at this point. Like he got himself sober, quit drinking. He won Q School in the fall. Like he wasn't winning Q School before that. Like he had barely qualified to be on the tour. And now he emphatically goes out and wins that event. He has played well. He was always a first round leader. I joked all last year that I would just, because his name is so like weird, you'd be like, oh, there's Endicott. It must be the first round because he's inside the top 5 right now.
Yeah. Good showdown play, always. I think that would make sense. But here too, 3 guaranteed rounds, which we'll get to. But yeah, that would be the reason. I like the bet better than the DFS play.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm never going to play $6,000 players again.
Right.
It's just, especially in a tournament like that, when I was condensing, and part of my strategy going in at all of these short courses, Pete Dye courses, whatever it might be, that I told you, like, I just don't want to play anyone in the 10K range.
And it differs to a good that you brought that up. A great point. It's like Bobby Mack at 6,900.
Yeah.
It's a real dude. Like this is a real guy. You're not taking some diamond in the rough stand or some gem that you think you found. It's Bobby Mack. Like he can definitely play. He's showed up in majors, all these other factors. Like the guy's solid. So that's not the same as what we're talking about, but it's like trying to dig in the dirt to find Grayson Murray to then get 10% even or 5% just to say you had some. Do you even end up with the right other stuff that goes with him with the perfect like Murray and Bradley type lineup? Probably not. So that's why it's not worth doing in most cases.
For example, like I would have jammed Seamus Power this week at $6,700, but he withdrew from the tournament, so I can't do that anymore. But that's an example of, I think, a real guy, whether he's played well or not, I have no idea. I pulled a cust. I said, he withdrew. I bet him at 200 to 1. He withdrew. It's going to be like Tim and Aaron Rodgers in the Jets this year. It's like I hit a hypothetical 200 to 1. So I'm up big on the year betting wise now that I have this 200 to 1 in my back pocket.
Never forget.
Guaranteed
Hideki
winner.
Still won the players.
Yeah. Hideki wins the players. Seamus Power won this tournament. It was like the Aaron Hills U.S. Open that Phil skipped that Cuss claimed. Like that's basically a win for Phil because he would have won if he had played. So yeah, I can see why he does this. And just give yourself the old Barry Horowitz.
You have to.
Patting yourself on the back. The other thing that I wanted to point to was the tournament that I ended up playing. I played in the small $5, not the big $5. And just having to beat fewer people is easier. And I would have someone pointed out that my lineup that won would have come second in the big contest, which probably would have been worth like $50,000. But I wasn't going to play 35 entries into the $20 because I never do. So that doesn't bother me. Apparently it bothers, especially like it seems to bother people. Even if it's not their lineup, it's weird.
It's part of just you got to bring somebody down when they can't bring themselves up. It's like, you would have won a bunch more. It's like they're not happy that you won the 5K necessarily to say, but this, or some will throw it as like an extra jab, like congrats. But did you know this? It's like, I don't care. But also, I guess even if I was comparing that, I wouldn't. But if I was, I would look at like, what happened in the big $5 with 25K up top, because maybe you could have thrown it in that $5 instead. Sure, same money value. Like when people try to say, that would have won the 555, like, and I'm in a $5 tournament or a $10 tournament. It's like, well, nice, I guess. That's not what I was planning on playing. I didn't get in that one. So I think you could look at it from that perspective, but then got to remember, in those bigger versions, the field size is 5 to 6 times larger as well. There's more outlier lineups. There's more things that can get there. There's actually cases where you could have won more in this, coming in first for 5,000
then coming in
versus
seventh,
coming in like
other.
sixth in the other one. Exactly. And you had to play off against a lot more teams. So that could have been the case. And we won't even look it up. I just say that is something that I would say that would be more comparable, but why bring a person down? You won 5K. Congrats. Great start to the season. Two events in.
Yeah, can't be down on DraftKings this year.
That's
I'm
right.
Not going to, I mean, I better not lose $5,000 on DraftKings. I just don't play that much.
The big tournaments are coming.
Yeah, but I don't play any more on the big tournaments than I do on the little. Like I didn't play more because it was the Sony, but I even said on the show last week, like the Sony was my best tournament DraftKings wise last year. There's a very good chance that it's my best tournament this year.
Yeah.
The year previous, the Wyndham was my best one. 2 years previous to that, like 3 years in a row, the Heritage was my best one. Give me short Bermuda courses, and I'm all in.
Yeah, you're telling me what I love to hear. Less is more. Less buy-ins, more outcome, more money. You got it. I love that motto, and it works for you too. So that's great.
So I can't wait to start giving it back this week. That's always a lot of fun. So let's dig into the American
Or the heater. Or the heater.
Got to press it. Got to put all of it back in. Roll.
No.
Got to play in the Thunderdome. Is that one for golf this week?
I think they have big ones. The 3K is a nice one. It's like 3180 and it's got 100 people in it, but I hate that there's not often times that you can win a ticket to it. I would prefer that.
Yeah, I'm not going to play in that. So that's where I'm at. In terms of betting, I've updated the bets in the newsletter right now. I still haven't made any decisions above Taylor Montgomery. I bet him at 60 to 1. He's down to 55. I still like him. I like him as a play on DraftKings. I like him as a bet, but I'll on the Wednesday newsletter, I'll have my finalized. I'm still trying to figure out between Sung Jae, Tom Kim, and Min Woo. I think one of those guys will end up making the card. I really like Wyndham Clark this week.
Yeah, I saw that. I read the newsletter. I actually added 2 last night because of you. I added the Nick Taylor before it went away, and I added the Taylor Montgomery. So
didn't the Nick Taylor one seem strange?
Based on his stats last week, I just don't know if they look at that or care enough to say it's like still Nick Taylor. It's still a very strong field, whatever. But I was with you on it. I thought that was a great call.
Yeah, I just thought it was a bad number.
Yeah, I like it.
It'll get crushed here going forward. But let's talk American Express. There are 3 rounds guaranteed. So how does the strategy change with 54 guaranteed holes? Like, does that mean you should go more stars and scrubs? Like, does it lean more to that because everyone gets it? Or is this a tournament where you would take a few more flyers on potential birdie makers from down low just because you know that they're not going to get cut at least until Sunday? Not to say that you're going to win a tournament with a 5 or 6, but you could sneak someone through pretty easily.
Yeah, I think people do the strategy based on just the concept of the 3 rounds thing versus comparing all the factors in. And I would say I'm still going to be interested in that way of going about building my lineups, but it's not necessarily just because the 3 guaranteed rounds. Just that's kind of the gravy on top or the added bonus. It's like, what do we have in the field and what does this look like? Everyone's talking about, this is the strongest field ever. It is a very strong American Express.
It seems like it's about as strong as last year, though.
But I was going to just say that. And it also, like, if you, yes, Scotty, X, Cantlay, sure. But then, like, Sung Jae, JT, Jason Day, Sam Rowe, I'm not saying they're bad players. I'm saying that's like, it's not like these are all the best players in the world that are here. There's 3 or 4.
All of these guys played in this tournament last year, except for Justin Thomas. But John Rahm also played in this tournament.
Right. So I guess that was my angle on it, too. So I like this range. I like all this other stuff. But I think also, then what do you have with these guys? Well, all these guys have played pretty well here. X, Cantlay, Sung Jae, all these guys, Tom Kim, like these are all dudes that you could see do well here. So I definitely do like the stars and scrubs approach, but it's not just because the 3 guaranteed rounds. That's the added bonus.
So per Fantasy National, the player who's lost the most strokes total the past 5 years at this tournament is Rafael Campos. So don't play him. He's the min at 6,000. The 5 best, Sung Jae, Cantlay, Siwoo, Finau, and Hadwin. Hadwin's going to be very popular this week at $8,300, even though he missed the cut last week.
Yeah, we debated that yesterday. It's really hard to tell. He should be based on the course history if people keep sticking to that. But when you have guys there that there is Siwoo, there is Putnam, who played really well last week, Taylor Montgomery, who you talked about, and we both bet, all the guys below in the $7,500 to $7,900 range. So maybe there's a chance he stays at like 15, but that still is popular for that range.
Sure, and taking off what James has said about using the Fantasy National ownership tools earlier in the week to try to project out how they're going to look by the time the tournament actually starts, like high favorite percentage right now. Like, for example, no one is playing Shane Lowry in that range.
For sure.
And everyone is playing Eric Cole. Everyone's playing Eric Cole at 8,800 over Kirk, Clark, and Lowry and Siwoo. And he's in the middle of them. So those guys will probably come in a little bit lower. When we get down, it's about even with everyone below that. Like Cam Davis, Hadwin, Bhatia, Montgomery, and Putnam all currently project out right around the same. Now, that's going to shift as the week goes along, as people pick their favorites. I would guess that Cam Davis is the one who gets left behind.
Yeah, but I don't know if people will stick with Akshay there.
I'm playing Akshay.
Yeah.
Akshay was in my winning lineup last week. Dude fucking rules, man.
Yeah, he's solid.
I mean, he didn't putt well here last year, but he's changed his putter. He putts really well on slow greens. These are really slow greens. And the pins are all like that. That's the one thing that it's hard to quantify this in Pebble Beach because they are pro-ams. The pins aren't in tough spots. They're in really easy spots because you have a bunch of fucking amateurs playing in this tournament, and they try to protect them a little bit. They're not like the world's easiest pins, but they're also not in difficult locations. So when you get a player like Akshay, all he wants to do is fucking fire at pins. It's like why Scotty plays really well here too. He just misses every putt, so it's tough for him. But it's just like, oh, there's an accessible pin. I'm going to fire at it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just make a ton of birdies. And I think that now that he can putt a little bit, it's actually a really nice spot for him.
I like the call. Like I said, again, that's the part where it's when he's squeezed between Hadwin, Montgomery,
and Putnam.
So how does, again, they can't all get the ownership. So that's what I'm interested to see when we start building out and look at like maybe what an optimal might look like and then base it off of that. Like I just don't see how that would happen where he gets extremely popular. So it's a good play for you, like you said, in tournaments, because you have a great case to make for him.
So do you guys have the educational videos on Ship It Nation up yet about like tournament selection and everything like that?
Yeah, the PGA one's up. It comes free with the membership. So if you sign up with code Mayo, you get the deal. Plus you get the course. It's 2 hours, but you could skip around. It's all broken down for you in a legend style that you can go and see, but contest selection, bankroll management, all that stuff that goes with it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that you've really taught me at doing this show now for 2 years, back and forth building these lineups and even just talking afterwards, is now that I've cleaned up my contest selection so much, especially like it was more so in NFL, because I would just donate money in NFL every single year. Now I've won the past 3 years. I've been up money in NFL, and it's almost exclusively due to contest selection. Just playing, like I play the 150 every week. I don't play the big 150. I play the small 150. And I just, come 8th, 4th, 5th, 3 times a year.
Odds are better.
And it pays for the year.
Yeah, it's nice.
So yeah, I think the same thing in golf too. Like if I had played the big $5, would I have won it? I don't know. I don't really care. I won the smaller one, and I'm probably going to stick to the smaller fields by and large. There's a big, smaller $6 this week that I think I'll probably play 30 lineups in.
Yeah, 5K up top again.
Yeah.
Nice balanced structure.
It's basically the same tournament that I won last week, but now it's $6 instead of $5.
It's always what it is, right, Pat? Everybody wants to win the big score, the biggest one, but like these help get you there. Like if you got $5,000 and just play it this way and you win another $5,000 in a month and a half from now, and it just keeps building the bankroll up, and then maybe you win some tickets. I always do recommend, and we talk about this in the course, the secret of satellites and about how I'm getting into these events like King of the Desert, King of the Beach. I've had a ton of success with all these spots. It's through the satellites, and you did well with them. I mean, you got into King of the Beach through one last year as well. You know the power of these things. I strongly recommend it. It's in the course. We break it all down on why and how it's important, but I think that's the key people don't focus on enough. That's how you can get through, but why not win 5K in the meantime while you're waiting for your big spot like that to get your big break? That's how I look at it.
So the reason that I beat you in our head-to-head, which I'll review at the end of the show, and we'll make our new picks for this week, is you played Will Zalatoris in a head-to-head against me. Not a good play, as he did not do well.
Results-oriented.
Yeah, that is results-oriented. But I went back on the research show and kind of broke down his round by round. And he had 2 rounds. He and Woodland I kind of dove into. And the one thing I noticed between the both of them, short games were like they bled strokes chipping. Especially early on. Like Will couldn't putt in the first round. I think that's the underrated part about coming back to playing. Like you can practice all you want. An iron shot is an iron shot. A tee shot is a tee shot. But when you get into actual tournament setups and there's bigger rough, tournament setup, faster greens, that kind of thing, I think that does take a few to come back. And that's kind of what I saw with them. That's why I'd be worried about, I'm worried about Daniel Berger anyway at $8,000, considering he hasn't played in 20 months or something like that. But that's probably one of the main reasons why I wouldn't go to him. But he's coming in, he's cheaper and even lower owned than Will Z was last week. And I know that Will Z's been a great player. Daniel Berger's been a better player for longer.
Yeah, it's just so hard to quantify now when you talk about the samples. Like if you go on Fantasy National right now and you run it for last 50 rounds and
Berger
don't put
looks
anything
great.
on it, Berger's the best. It's like, wow, that's insane. But if you realize what that actually is, then you're like, okay, there's a problem here. So you got to think of it from that perspective. I will say too, like sample size is very limited. I know it's results oriented and sample and can make sense coming back from an injury. But like I posted this tidbit out the day of the tournament last week or close to it. So one last tidbit. He's been chipping since July. Will Zalatoris has been chipping since July while he was working on coming back. He should have been better from around it. I could see the putter, losing it on the greens. Maybe you're not playing on the exact same stuff, all that. But like, again, I just think it was a bad week for that. The rest of the stuff was okay. I think it could be fine. We'll see where it goes this week. But now down to 7,900. It's another decision to be made. Maybe you knock the rust off and you're back. I don't know. Maybe he needs a couple more weeks. But
I mean, I wouldn't have liked him here anyway at full strength.
right.
I wouldn't have liked him last week at full strength. I wouldn't have liked him this week at full strength. I don't want him in birdie fests.
Right, but okay, and I knew you were going to say that, and Kenny said the same thing to me, but that's what I've said that point forever. That's why I literally never bet this guy and made fun of him for ages, was because of that, but we were talking about him at 9,500, 9,800, 9,700. Now we're talking about 7,900 with a week to knock off the rust. Everyone wanted to wait and see. It didn't go well, missed the cut, but guess what? Adam Hadwin missed the cut last week too. Going to be popular this week. It's back to his course. He crushes here. Desert Rat.
So to kind of spin it the other way, that yes, it is a very small sample. You can only glean so much from it. Then you have to try to project forward why that was, what that means. And well, he could have been chipping for 8 months. I do think it's a little bit different when you're in the midst of actual tournament play. You need to make this chip. It's not just practice anymore. And then, like, listen, Ben Ann makes that putt all week. Grayson makes a 40-footer in his face, and all of a sudden he gets fucking rattled and misses a 4-footer.
Definitely.
Like, it happens.
Things, they get rattled up. Definitely something to that. Like the Twitter conversations around people saying like, oh, is he, going to be worried, like Will Z, is he going to be worried about, that now there's a cut on the line, all this. I don't think he cares about the cut. The dude has money and he's fine when it comes to that. But there has to be some sort of mental aspect to it where it's like, okay, I'm back now. It's a lot on the go, but he has nothing to lose either. Like if he doesn't make it, move on to the next week. He's just rehabbing and getting back. So there was that point as well. I think it's good and leans more in the favor of other things you're saying, where it's like that also matters. It's like there's no pressure for him to go out and win this week or something like that. He's just going out, getting back into the groove and getting back into full swing so he can get back to where he was before.
So let's talk about the highest owned players of the week. I'm pretty sure it's going to be JT Poston at $9,100. That'd be my guess. Everyone's betting him. Everyone wants to play him on DraftKings, and it makes a whole lot of sense. I do wonder, though, if he hadn't shot 61 at the Sony, let's say he shoots, 67, and he comes T36 or something instead of 6th place.
Yep.
What do you think that the ownership gap would be? Do you think it would be the same? Do you think it'd be a lot lower? Because everything kind of points to him here. He's been fantastic in opportunities gained. We know he's a great putter. He's had 2 top 10s the past 5 years at this course. Things are pointing towards him. I understand the love for it. I'll probably full fade him, but that's me.
Yeah, I think it still would have been close. I mean, I don't think that it's not enough, but it's definitely adding to it. So let's say 3 to 5%. I don't know. Like it would, people were still going to be getting into JT Poston here. I think. I guess use this to look at it the other way. Then the guy that's $100 less than him. Where do you think people stand on Kirk this week? Because he was crushing for 3 rounds again off the win and had just had a bad Sunday, and now it seems like people don't love him as much as Poston and Eric Cole right there. Even some Clark love, but probably not much. I know you like him, but I'm saying that, like when you see that range, I think JT Poston and Cole, very popular. I don't know if people are going to continue on the Kirk train, but it's kind of the opposite effect of JT Poston. JT Poston has the one great, so JT Poston was fine all week. I shouldn't say that, but it has the huge Sunday round, goes super low, versus Kirk has a horrible Sunday round, but the first 3 were solid. So where do you think people come in on Chris Kirk?
I think it'll be probably half of what they come in on JT Poston. Yeah. I objectively like Chris Kirk better.
Yeah, there's lots still pointing towards him.
Dude could not make a putt.
I know.
He used up all of his putting for his first 6 rounds of the year, and it all came crashing down over the weekend at the Sony. It was horrendous how bad he was. Because I mean, he almost cost you a bunch of money by missing a.
That's it. It was like a 6-footer at the end that was another thing would have just sealed it, because there was like a train in front of me of teams that if he makes it, it would have been the birdie points. Plus, it would have put him under 70, which would have been all 4 under 70, the bonus. So you're always grinding something at the end. You're always sweating it out. So it's the way it goes. But yeah, he could not make a putt on that Sunday, especially. But I believe even Saturday was pretty bad for him as well.
So he gained, and Thursday was even worse for him. So he gained all 3 rounds on approach, all 3 rounds on ball striking, 3 of the 4 rounds around the green. He lost 2.5 strokes Thursday putting. He lost 1.1 on Sunday and almost 1 on Saturday. Yeah. Like that's not typical crazy. He is generally a good putter. I mean, we see it with Denny too, another guy who withdrew this week. Like if Denny's not putting, he sucks. Like he's objectively bad. At least Kirk, when he's not putting, he's still good at other things. So now if he can just continue with his hot approach play, which he's had at a course where he's played really well over the course of his career, I don't see any reason not to go back to him.
Yeah, agreed. And kind of funny you said that because that was the other angle of like the world. I forget what you called it in the newsletter, but the Taylor Montgomery, the spin, usually I think he's like maybe the best putter in this field now that Denny's out, but it's the idea of last week, he couldn't find a putter, but he was all over it, ball striking. So what do we see carry over here? And what if he does find that putter, then it can heat up quick?
Yeah, and I don't even need him to do what he did last week with his irons. I think he gained over 7. Like, he doesn't need to do that again. That would most certainly be nice if he was able to do that again. He would probably win if he gained 7 strokes on approach and had
Found
one
his
of his
putter.
spike weeks.
Yes.
But if he can just gain like a stroke per round and gain 4 strokes on approach and then have one of those, because I put it in, I think he's gained over 6 strokes putting in 4 of his past 14 starts, and it's been over 3 strokes putting in 9 of his past 14. So if he just has his typical above average week that he normally has on the greens, all of a sudden, especially at a tournament like this where approach shots are easier, it's going to rely. It's a fucking putting contest. I heard a wise man once say that about this tournament.
Is he wise? I think he is a wise man after everything he's pulled off in this past month and a half or whatever. But yeah, I definitely agree. And that's why I said I bet him when you post him a newsletter. I didn't think of that fully. I was talking about it a bunch yesterday and then I just saw it and I was like, all right, I'm in because it's what you said. And people don't think of it from that perspective where it's the same in Showdown. People always say this, oh, there's no way he's going to gain 3.5 strokes putting again. That's why they say, like, if a guy's hitting on approach and not gaining with the putter, they want to hop on him. But when someone gains like almost 4 strokes, yeah, he's probably not going to gain 4 strokes
But
with
he
the
might
putter.
gain
I agree.
2.
But what if he gains 1.5 or 2? It's still a really good day. He's still really cheap. And people just naturally go the opposite of that. In Showdown, it's the same thing you're saying here for Montgomery. It's like, we don't need the 7 strokes ball striking. We just need 3 or 4 and find the putter again that he usually has. And it could be a really good week, especially at a very cheap price.
So Moose is adding a bunch of tools to Fantasy National like in the upcoming weeks. There's going to be like a complete redesign, make everything smoother. And then one of the tools that I want to put in, like I think opportunities gained was a really good stat that he implemented. I'm actually we're trying to come up with a name for it. Maybe we can workshop this one. Basically called like spike round. Mm-hmm. So we have like rounds gained on the field. That's one of the filters that you can go through to see how often you're above average in the field. But the other one I want to put in is how often are you top 10% in the field in a round in a particular stat. So I think that is very valuable. Mm-hmm. And I think when you would look at Taylor Montgomery, you would find him probably the best. I mean, Higo might be up there too because he'll just get nuclear for. He made 9 birdies in a row with this event last year. Yeah. Just like you'd see him pop up like he might be in the bottom 10 a lot of the time, not Montgomery, Higo. But when he putts well, like he can't miss.
Right.
And so I think that would be a valuable one to look at when you're trying to project outliers, especially for Showdown.
Yeah, the spike rounds, like you talk about, are huge. EVR types, the Batias, the guy, like you just mentioned, like there's a lot of guys like that you're going to get that potential round out of them, but that would be a stat to help you find it out a little bit easier and be very helpful for something like Showdown. But again, when you're getting 3 guaranteed rounds or in no cut events, it's also nice because you might only need 2 of those rounds out of the 4, or one of those rounds to go really low with streaks and eagles and things like that really start racking up the points, right? It's not necessarily finishing position. It's what are the points they put up along the way. High variance to figure out who's going to make the eagles and birdie streaks, but it does matter. It helps a ton.
Do you have any particular take on Showdown this week? Because I do.
I think just what are the 2 courses? La Quinta and Nicholas.
So Nicholas, I think, is the best because the eagle rates on the par 5s at the Nicholas course are all above 4%. So there's technically 4 eagles available for everyone in the field. That's the one drawback to the stadium course. Because when you look at the lowest rounds of the week, like a lot of them are going to come at the stadium course. Like the stadium course isn't hard. It's just you can make a 78 at the stadium course where that's almost impossible for players in this field at the other 2. Like the baseline easiness of the other 2 is much higher than it is at the stadium course. But the stadium course is entirely gettable. You just have to avoid the 6 water traps.
Which fits similar narrative we brought up earlier. Going to Showdown, which is where you're going with this, is why try and find that spike round on who's going to have it on that course when you can just stack one of the other 2 courses or mix them both, because a lot of people just like to stack one and not play the other, even though the other 2 are very gettable and more likely to have those more of those rounds versus trying to find the spike round.
Well, I think it would depend. I think you would want to look at the round 1 Showdown ownership to see how that goes, because I do think that because everyone kind of knows this, that there's the 2 easy courses and the quote unquote hard course, the stadium course where they play 2 of the rounds where the Sunday round is going to go. That I just think there might be massive leverage on taking good players at the stadium course who might be wildly underowned.
I would still revert back to my previous statement and what
You
I
would?
taught you on the other stuff
Okay.
and avoid,
But
because
no, I
again,
mean, like, because
trying to peg it, it's fine.
But there's going to be a day because of the
Sure.
TV window where Scheffler, Xander, Cantlay, Tom Kim, it's probably going to be Saturday that they're all playing the stadium course. So you have all the best players on the field at the quote unquote hard course. Like, just take Scheffler at that one.
So I'd argue that yeah, like, I would just say I would be with you at least on one side of it, is if that on that day, I call them like 5-1s. I know that's usually an NFL showdown topic of talking about like 5 guys from one team, 1 from the other. I would pick 5 guys up and then try and peg in. Like, let's say I pick 4 guys that day on that course that I like. And it's not just necessarily Scheffler, Cantlay, et cetera, whoever's on it. But there's 4 guys that I like based on who they are, the ability to beat up a course like that, no matter how hard people think it is, and the stats that I have on them so far, where then I would be able to put them in. You could put like a max of 1, and then you mix those guys into your lineups with some of the other ones that you think are going to go super low on those other courses. So I don't hate it from that perspective, because you are right. There's the day that they all show up there and get it. And we used to have to deal with this, Pat, when we talk about weather, even for the main week. Remember, if there was ever weather at this course, we would talk about which course do you want on the windy day and your harder conditions in this and all that. And you could actually stack early on. But for Showdown, I like your second point there for sure. Definitely would mix them in that day.
Okay, let's build some lineups.
Let's do it. So, the recap of last week, we'll do that at the end.
We'll do that. We'll do that when we pick our new teams at the end.
Okay, so we'll just talk about the other lineups first. I was
Yeah.
going to say something about that when we get
We'll
there.
build some lineups because I want to get a sense and build them through with you to see which ones that I like.
I still want to do that. I was going to see if we should go to a draft at the end. The winner gets first pick.
in a draft?
And so you're up 1-0. So this week you get first pick after we talk it through. And then you also are talking through your process of your lineup. You're like, well, I'm going this guy, but now I'm going to need to find some value because I did that. I can if I want to leverage off of you and say, okay, you've got 2 of these guys, I want to do this. I think it would be interesting, but
All
it's
right,
like a
we'll,
snake.
We'll do a head-to-head draft.
Okay,
And
at the end, after we talk
I'll
through it.
continue to press my record to undefeated.
Let's go.
Scheffler, Xander, Cantlay, and Sungjae are the ones above $10,000. Tom Kim is 99. We can throw him in there. We can throw Justin Thomas in. But it's really Scheffler, Xander, Cantlay are way above the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And then at a tier level in terms of pricing, Sungjae, Tom Kim, Justin Thomas. Like Sungjae at 10-1 might as well be a part of the 9K range versus the other guys that are in the upper 10s or 11s. Do you have a preference between the top 3? Do you want to use the top 3 at this course? Because we do eventually see all the top players like kind of up there in the end. Like Scheffler plays this tournament every single year. He plays well at this tournament every single year. He's never won it, so that's a problem. He's finished inside the top 10 once. He's a 3rd, 11th, 25th, and a cut. I don't like Scheffler here because it is a putting contest. I think if we're just going to try to figure this out, no Scheffler for me. And he's going to hit it to 3 feet, and he's going to make you look stupid. And he's probably going to come like 9th, and he might win. He might win it running away if he has a good putting week. But that's a stance that I'm willing to take. No Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think, too, it's like you said, it's one of those things almost like let Russ cook in the NFL, and then he never does. It's like one of these weeks, he's going to get it. And like he still has not found it enough. And even there was what was the previous event to the last one where it was like there were still a couple rounds there that were really bad with the putter, even though he's hitting it tight. So I understand where you're coming from there. I think Cantlay will end up being the most popular here at 10-8.
I would tend to agree because A, he's the cheapest, and B, he's the one with the like really good course history here. And if you do want to play that desert narrative, or desert narrative, as some people call it. There's only so many desert courses on the PGA Tour. Obviously, Phoenix would be one of them, so that would point towards Scotty, but Cantlay and Xander both played well there too. There's this one. Palmetto that I went and looked at actually had like an extensive crossover with this course.
Who was in that one? Like who are some of the guys that popped there? You remember?
Higo was the guy who won. Hatton came in second, but like Hudson Swafford came in second, who won this tournament twice.
Yep.
Hadwin was up there. There was a bunch.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's good. I didn't look at the one. I like looking at stuff like that, even if it isn't the
might not
telltale
mean
sign.
anything.
It just might not be anything, but it is interesting just to compare them over. I was chuckling because you had the Harry Hall dessert narrative of he's the one.
Yeah, if you just misspell it a little bit, Harry Higgs does have a top 10 at this course, so it could be dessert narrative. Who are the bigger men on tour? Do well here. Slow rounds. You're not really pushing the pace.
Yeah.
It's very, could be nice for people out there.
Cantlay, yeah, probably the most popular, and I think he'd be the one that fits into the optimal most likely. Like, could you see Cantlay in lineups here? Or do you think people go Cantlay and then drop down to like Poston?
Let's start it. I think it would be Cantlay. I think Cantlay Poston is your most common start this week.
Let's do that.
That's just me thinking it through based on what I'm seeing ownership numbers, but I want to see how the rest of the lineup goes because I could see if you don't like the bottom end of your roster with Cantlay and Poston, that turns into Sungjae Poston real quick.
Yeah, because it's interesting if I plug in Eric Cole right after those two, because I think he gets popular as well. Or even if you go to drop down, I think the money's still going to be bad. Drop down to Adam Hadwin for the course history in the desert. You're still down to 7,200 and change for your final three spots. I don't think people love this bottom 7K range. I just don't know. Like, what do you see for that?
Well, let's go through it and try to see where people are gravitating towards pretty early on down in that range. Smalley, Bezadenhout, Ben Griffin, EVR is getting a lot of love. I like EVR this week. So
how much is EVR again?
He's 75.
I think we could put him in. I definitely think people like him.
I mean, Matty Schmidt is getting some favorite love. I like Matty Schmidt this week, but I don't know if that is a Fantasy National. People listen to the show, know I like Matty Schmidt. They look into him a little bit more and they're like, oh, he's played well here kind of thing. And some of the stats that you look at, be it Pete Dye or whatever, kind of have him at the top because he has such a small sample. I just like the way that he's been playing.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, again, I don't think he's going to get too popular or anything like that, or you have to worry about, if you want to play him, play him. I think it's like you said, I think it's going to be EVR and Smalley look like pretty popular value plays early on.
Sam Ryder as well.
Yeah, how much is he again?
72. He and Schmidt are both 72. After that, like Kazire, Ryan Moore will pop pretty well here, I think, if anyone is doing stat modeling. Like, I think optimals will point to Ryan Moore because he's $6,900 and he fits with these top guys, and the stats just look great from him.
What about Montgomery versus Putnam? If people landed there, where do you think they roll?
I think they'll go with Montgomery. And even though I think it's going to turn out to be a lot like what you said with Hadwin, or who was it?
Bhatia?
No, last week with you went with Putnam and everyone went with who? Svensson. Where you thought that you were going to get a bit of leverage on Putnam because Svensson was clearly going to be very highly owned. That just turned out they were both super highly owned.
Yeah, in the King of the Desert, they're both over 50. In the main, though, Svensson did get some late steam. He popped almost 15% when most didn't have him for that, but Svensson did still get to 20 or 19 or something. But
I just think they'll both be owned.
So in your lineup here, Cantlay, Poston, if you do EVR, Smalley, and Ryder, it lands you on Montgomery or Putnam.
Okay.
So that looks like a build I could see happening here. And then we can see how we can flip it.
Eric Van Rooyen, you said Smalley. Smalley gagged the cutaway, by the way. Not only was he the guy that could have brought it to -3, he didn't even make it at -2.
What? Yeah, I forget what happened. It was on like 15 or 16. He missed like a 2-footer or something, and then that caused all this downs. That was your, I had to get that dig in quick, of your optimism on your thread out there where you're posting everything. Oh, but don't worry. If this happens, it can get to a 2. And in my head, I'm like, the only thing I don't want is it to get, in every post you made, I kept feeling closer and closer, and I kept refreshing Data Golf to try and see the live predictive line. I'm like, oh man, Pat's willing this thing home, and then Kenny hops into the mix too. All my friends are out there just talking.
Well, it's funny because I didn't want it to be -2.
Right.
I wanted it to be -3. But I'm just saying
saying
what's out there.
Yeah, just saying what's happening. Exactly. Yeah.
So 72, that would land you on Ryder. You would get between like Ryder, Schmidt. Stevens had a good week last week. Do you have any feel for Mathieu Pavon?
I mean, I don't think I would be chasing it, but yeah, he had a great week last week.
Yeah, and he was T5 in the DP World Tour Championship to end the year too. Like he's a real guy.
Oh yeah, I'm okay with that. Like if you land there and you want to go to him, it's fine.
Like basically since the swing season started, he had a bad start to the swing season on the DP tour when all like the best guys were playing. So Wentworth, he didn't play well at Le Club National en France. He missed the cut. And then after that, starting with the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship, T6, he won the next week in Spain. He was T9 the next week in Spain after that. 2 bad ones in Qatar. He made the cut, but he had a bad one in Qatar, top 15 in South Africa, top 5 at the DP World Tour Championship, top 10 last week. I just thought he was interesting, and I don't think anyone is going to go to him.
Yeah, and I think it's because people don't want to chase. So if you think, again, you're going to get some leverage there for sure, and if you're comfortable with that, it almost reminds me of $7,100 Rio last week. I don't even know how he ended up finishing. I know he was in there for a minute. Like he
played pretty well.
Made the cut and was fine, but
I'm saying a lot of putting.
I saw that too. Like that's whatever, but I think a lot of it was people talked about him, but I don't think as many people ended up actually playing him. And that would be something like this where you would see people mention Pavon, but I don't know if they're actually going to go there. So, and I don't think they will.
I would doubt that they would play him as well. Right. To kind of take a look at what we had last week with him. Yeah, he gained on approach, gained almost 5 strokes putting. Terrible driving the ball.
Who's this?
Ryu.
Okay, yeah. So what did he finish? Do you have that there?
T30.
Yeah. So it was like he was still in the mix. People are happy that they got that outcome from it, whatever. But this would be a similar player at 7,200. But I think that lineup looks like something I could see being in place. What's interesting is if you do drop Cantlay to Im.
That's what I wanted to see. What does it look like if you drop Cantlay to Im?
You land on Eric Cole. So it's Sungjae, Poston, Cole, EVR, Smalley, Ryder. The 3 value plays that you pegged as most popular or likely very popular. And then it gets you Poston and Cole with Sung Jae. I think this is what people will be comfortable.
So I already swapped out Ryder for Matty Schmidt.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I did. And if we go to this upper stage, like okay, do you think people will be more likely to upgrade Montgomery to Eric Cole or upgrade Smalley to someone who's $8,000 or below? Because now you have Putnam, like you can play Putnam and Montgomery.
So what's that one look like?
That would be Poston, Montgomery, Putnam, EVR, Ryder, Schmidt, whoever you wanted at $7,200.
So I have to take out Smalley or Ryder to bump him up, right?
Yeah.
I actually have to take out Smalley.
Yeah, because Smalley's 73.
So I need him because no one's going to want the Berger man.
How did Jaeger play last week? Let's see here.
He crushed again. Did what he does.
I mean, you could take out Ryder and play Jaeger
Because he made another cut. I think he finished T18.
He did finish T18.
And that was the argument of the Willie Z thing for this week. Again, way different, injured, just going with the bit now. But the thing about Jaeger, the bit was that he, like Kenny was going on, other people saying the same thing. He just makes cuts. That's not good enough. Did not end up on a winning lineup or anything that I saw. But my point was, again, you got to factor in the price. He was 8,100 last week, finished 18th, scored okay. It's like you don't need him to do the top 5 thing and really crush unless you're paying the premium price.
That was one of the lineups that I was worried about catching me. There was a Steven Jaeger lineup because he was in the other split. I was like, oh no, he gets number 9 to finish, not 18. Like no one was making Eagle on 18, but everyone was making Eagle on 9. I was like, if Jaeger makes Eagle on number 9, like, I might be screwed here. I wasn't.
Did he make par?
I don't know what he ended up making on it, but I was just like, because you start running through like because you can't, even if you look through the 20 lineups that are behind you, you have like a general sense of who can catch you and who can't. But then you see like one weird outlier lineup. You're like, how the fuck is this going to work?
Yeah.
Like just go away.
Let's see here real quick. I just want to see.
So that would be Poston, Montgomery, EVR, Putnam, Matty Schmidt. You could turn Putnam into Jaeger, then upgrade Schmidt to Smalley if you wanted to.
So Schenk, Jaeger, a couple other guys I see popping. I have my early projections here, so just trying to look at it. Schenk, Jaeger, and I think James, Degenerate 75, we did our first look yesterday. We were talking about, I think people will go to T-Dunks as well. Tyler Duncan will be the 6K guy that people kind of get interested in.
No, thank you.
6,700, three guaranteed rounds.
No, thank you.
What's the last time we saw him?
Probably last week. He probably missed the cut. Let's see. How did he do last week? He made the cut. He was 67th.
Yeah.
It's just a problem with Tyler Duncan. He's not any good.
That's probably true.
12 birdies last week for him.
So, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like that's where you'll see it popping a little bit. But those are some of the other guys. I think, landing on EVR, fine. Montgomery, Putnam for sure. Sung Jae.
Well, let's rejig this because the guys that I like from this lineup are Montgomery and EVR. So I just want to leave those two in. And now we have $8,600. I think you can build a pretty steady lineup here without it.
Montgomery, EVR?
Just Montgomery and EVR. I just want to leave those two in because I'm most definitely playing those two guys this week. So how do we do? Is anyone playing Sam Burns for one thing? Anyone?
I don't think so. Early in the week, it's really tough to gauge. I think it's going to be very spread out again, though. And I don't see him being one of the guys that it moves to. Like he's a guy in the 9K range that could pick up a little steam. But here's the thing. People aren't really landing in the 9K range. Like I don't even see the full Tom Kim love yet. We'll see as we get closer and some JT. But
it'll get there.
With Burns, Finau, Fowler, Minwoo, Day. Like I just don't see people clicking these names. So
I like Wyndham Clark and Chris Kirk.
Tell me the Wyndham Clark story for a second. What interests you about him? Like he won the U.S. Open.
Sure. But where Wyndham Clark really succeeded in his career before he won the U.S. Open. I guess maybe he's a different player now and because he is a bomber. But when you historically go look at where he had played well, it was all like short courses because he's someone who he's another one like Taylor Montgomery. He gets so hot with his putter. And he just makes these putts. Like the Honda was always a good one for Wyndham Clark because he would just kind of fire. And then now he can fire at pins a little bit more. I just like him here. Okay. And I think when we think of quality of player in this range, like you have the guy that won an elevated event at a super difficult course last year. He won the U.S. Open at a slightly easier U.S. Open. Like the dude went and shot -8 on the first day along with Xander. Yet now he's cheaper than Chris Kirk and the same price as Eric Cole.
He's quite squeezed in there. I mean, you get Eric Cole and Poston for sure. And then you have the potential of Chris Kirk, where again, people thought last week we knew the winner would get some love from the week before versus what we usually see, but maybe not that much. Like Kirk became pretty popular for a guy that won the week before with an elevated price tag. So that makes sense. And then I just wanted to get sold a little bit on the other stuff that you brought up on Clark, because I would argue too, Clark could also be a strength of field play here. You talked about him winning the Wells Fargo, the U.S. Open. These are two of the stronger fields we'll see. The U.S. Open being one of the strongest every year. And in this field, he's priced way down at 8,900 when he's done kind of more than some of the guys up top just last season alone.
Well, he's finished top 20 twice in 5 starts in his career at this course. The approach has never really been all that good, but I would argue that he's a better player now.
For sure.
And we've seen the approach play be a lot better. Even at the Century, the approach was good. He lost 6 strokes putting. He had not lost more than 1 stroke putting since Riviera last year before the Century. And the Century has stupid greens. They're gigantic. People who haven't played there before tend to really struggle on them badly. And where it's a shrunken field event, everyone gets 4 rounds. Like if you're putting poorly, it can start going really bad. I would just say that this is a pure talent play in here. And I understand that Poston and Cole rate out well for this type of course. They're coming in with better form, but Wyndham Clark's a better player than those 2 guys.
Yeah.
And he's going to be 1/5 the ownership of those guys.
It's what we always talk about. I love that you brought that up. Like the Cole factor is, look how hot he is. He's been on fire. He's been close to tournaments. He's played well at the Honda shorter course. He can play well at every style course, really. But then you have a guy that actually won 2 tournaments last year. I don't know if you saw yet your lineup here that can be extremely unique and close out with a pretty good closeout is Hadwin and Akshay with a 9K, 4 8Ks, and a 7. Extremely unique.
So,
and you get all the dudes you like.
So we can do that, or we can kind of bend it the other way. We can get a Finau or Fowler or hell, even Poston. If I was going to play Poston, this would be the type of lineup that I'd play Poston in as my most expensive guy.
And then you'd land on 7,400. You could play, or 7. You could play Smalley at 73. You could play KH Lee, Justin Suh, Ben Griffin, your guy. You always like Ben Griffin, so
yeah. I mean, I don't love that. What if I played Nick Taylor? That gets me back up to the Eric Cole Lowry range. I think there might be value with Lowry this week. That's another one. Just there's a really good player who's sitting there, and although his strokes gain won't get factored in for desert courses because he never plays them on the PGA Tour, he's won some on the Euro Tour over in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So
you know who else that fits with? Who won last week? Tommy Fleetwood. Another win. Just not a PGA Tour win, but it's a win over there. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that was kind of funny. We talked last night, Kenny and I, the irony of the Rory telling Grayson Murray to play better at the meeting. Rory 3-putting from 2 feet, Grayson making a 40-foot bomb and winning, Rory losing. It was pretty interesting to see that on the same day. But I like the Hadwin Bhatia version with 4 8K guys. That's pretty unique.
Okay, so we can do that one. That one fits perfectly. Or you can go Minwoo, Burns, Finau, or Fowler in this lineup. And you can make it work with a low $7,100, $7,200 guy. Do you have a preference of those guys? Do you think Minwoo picks up a ton of steam?
Doesn't seem like he will.
I think that he's going to be good at this course.
I think I like Burns or Finau more.
I like Finau. Listen, you can always.
I like them all. But
you can always sell anyone on Finau because you can point to anything that you want to go look at. I ran my mixed condition model. And Wyndham Clark was number 1 in it, by the way.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting play this week when you just, like we said, we talked about where he's at, squeezed pretty heavily between Poston, Cole, and even if people do go back to Kirk.
Is there a $7,000 guy that you think is any good? Or is that sort of the cutoff? Now we're just kind of, is there anyone $7,000 even or below that you like?
I don't really have that's my thing about this week that makes it tougher. Why I kind of like that Bhatia version of just like thinking about it, because 7,400 and below, there's not too many guys I like. I think Smalley is going to get popular. I think, we already talked about that. Maybe Eckroat gets a little love.
If Smalley gets popular, don't play Alex Smalley. There's a tip from Pat.
Yeah. Looks pretty popular to me right now. So, as does Schenk a little bit. So it's really tough to say, but I think that some of the pivots in there, like if you go back to the range, like Jaeger gets popular, but what about like Bo Hostler, Alex Noren, Taylor Pendrith, Keith Mitchell, like any of those guys in there that you could play again, getting 3 full rounds. That might be a way to differentiate.
So 2 ways to play this. I like your Bhatia Hadwin version. Also Jaeger Siwoo.
So what do we got now? Clark,
Kirk, Montgomery, EVR, Jaeger Siwoo.
Okay, let me plug this one in and see.
And just go pure balance, and hopefully it turns into that tournament from 2 years ago that Swafford won, where it was like Paul Barjon, Lee Hodges. Like these were the guys at the top of the leaderboard. Not so much, or have it be the year where the secondary stars all kind of went crazy, where you had Cantlay, Finau, Siwoo, like that tournament.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I like both of them, really, and they're both, to me, early on. I mean, we're getting closer anyway, but they do look unique compared to what I would see the other builds be. We didn't build a Scheffler version, but Scheffler still pops off the page, so I think people still get to Scheffler here.
Okay, so let's try to build up the Scheffler. I'm going to play this Bhatia. Was it Bhatia Hadwin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play that version as well. Get that in there. Okay, let's build a Scheffler one. Scheffler.
So we start with Scheffler.
It would be easier, like I mentioned, if there was a guy that we could agree that we actually like in the $6,000 range. And
Well, I wonder just like I said, like what is the Scheffler build people are going with, and then we make it our own, like we usually do. Like what are people going to make him work? Is it Tyler Duncan? Is it all those 7K guys that we just had in there, like the Smallies?
I think it's Ryan. I think Ryan Moore and wow, that's weird. I was just looking at actual lineups generated this week. Duncan and Chad Ramey rate out really well.
I think Duncan's going to be popular. Let me put Duncan in this.
Okay, we'll put Duncan in, and he makes sense with this
for the version of like what we think people are doing, because now you can get to who'd we say, like Smalley, EVR types.
Well, who else in that range did we say was going to like EVR, Ben Griffin, Smalley, Bezadenhout? Sam Ryder seems to be like kind of popping out in terms of who.
Oh, here you go. I found it already.
Duncan, Ryder, Scheffler.
It's no Ryder. No, it's Scheffler, Duncan. Mm-hmm. Our original two of Smalley and EVR, and it lands on Poston. Adam Hadwin and Eric Cole, which makes sense to me. You don't get Poston there. You can make Poston work because how much? I think you could take. So save that one. I think it's Eric Cole and EVR
and
to Ryder and Poston. Yep, it is.
Or you can Scheffler, Duncan, Smalley, EVR, Poston, Putnam works.
And you could do that one too if you take out Hadwin, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be another version of it. And it's probably the Putnam or Montgomery situation we run into all the time. Who's the $7,500 guy we just had before that I took out?
EVR.
Yeah, Vemruin. So that's that one. And then I'll just get a quick count on these to see what they actually pop like. And yeah, you can't even get to Montgomery in that one. So let me just look at my projections. Scheffler, Duncan, Smalley, EVR, Hadwin, Cole is by 6 points our highest projected lineup right now.
Okay.
So that's the one I think people get to. So it's an 11K guy with 2 8Ks, 2 7s, and a 6, but it's very easily fixed by taking Scheffler down to one of Cantlay or Sungjae or whatever you like there and popping Duncan up to Ryder, for example. And there's your lineup.
Okay, yeah. So let's do it with Cantlay. Let's turn Scheffler into Cantlay, and we turn Duncan into Smalley or Sam Ryder, like you said.
I think it was Ryder
or Bezadenhout, because people like to fill out all their money, right?
That's possible too.
Or you said Eckroat. Let's throw Eckroat in.
But like even the one you just had, you could still get Cantlay, Poston with EVR, Smalley, and Ryder, and then
that's what I have it.
Yeah, one of Putnam or Montgomery. Leave $100. So
yeah, if we do Sam,
and those only project like 5 or 6 points less than what we were just looking at.
Yeah, if we do Sam Ryder, we can play Montgomery instead of Putnam, which I like. Although it sounds like we're into the situation where you should probably just play both of them.
Possible. Yeah, we can look at that when we do our own, but let's look at this now. So 10-9-8-7-7-7.
That sounds like what
very convertible to other situational stuff we talked about. Make a 7 a 6.
Well, how about we turn Cantlay into Minwoo?
Yeah, this is how we start to get different. I mean, we found the builds that people are landing on. So now if you go with your guy Minwoo there,
you can turn Poston into Clark to free up some more money because I like Clark more than I like Poston. So now we have $1,500 to mess around with here. So you go Minwoo, Clark, it's like Montgomery.
So EVR to Kirk, it's Smalley to Cole.
Yeah, or you could turn
Ryder
into Lowry, or you turn one of them into Bhatia, and then you turn Smalley. We don't have enough money.
I think you had it, but I think you're over leveraging turning Ryder into Lowry, where you already have Minwoo and Clark and all that. I think it's like
but I like Lowry.
That's fine,
and I didn't even end up putting him in.
I'm just saying, like I would go EVR to Kirk instead, and then I still am super unique. I start my lineup with Minwoo. I have Kirk, Clark, no Cole. I have Montgomery, no Putnam. I have Ryder and Smalley, fine. But, you're still up there, and that's about 4 points off the original.
I'll take, so this is the one that I have. I just swapped Montgomery into Putnam. So Minwoo, Clark, Putnam, EVR, Jaeger, Bhatia.
Let me look this one up. So it's Lee, Clark. I have those guys. Putnam is 8K. And then it's EVR, Jaeger, Bhatia. So Ryder and Smalley go out.
If people are listening to the audio version of this, if you tune into the video version of the show, you can see the lineups on the screen.
That's right. Yeah. So Jaeger and then Bhatia, you said. That one is, only 1 point off the original. You like that one?
I do like that one.
So we got 9, 888, 77, and the 9 is completely unique in Minwoo. And then you still got quite a few of the good guys down there that should still have some leverage in here somewhere, if not just in roster construction alone. Yeah, I like that. That's nice.
Yeah. And even when I built out the mixed condition, Minwoo, Clark, and Jaeger and EVR all rated out excellently. Mainly because of Eagle rate. Because I weighted that pretty highly.
You like Bhatia Clark or do you like Montgomery Kirk?
I like them both.
Let's see how that one does.
All that means is I can just do that and then swap them out, right?
And the first one rated better, actually. So that's interesting. Okay.
So it was Putnam. So it turns into Kirk Montgomery, you said?
Yeah. There's so many versions of this I can flip around, though. That's the thing.
Kirk Bhatia. Bhatia into Montgomery. And you still have 8,000 for Putnam if you wanted him.
Yeah, lots of ways you can go. What it tells us is this. Xander is not getting played. The 9K range, including even Tom Kim, may get overlooked, but definitely JT, Day, Burns, Finau, Fowler, not getting played.
Minwoo, same.
Minwoo, yeah, sorry, he falls into that. Cam Davis, Lowry.
Clark.
I feel like Clark will get the steam from anybody there. It's not going to be enough. I'm just saying, like, at least we put him in and saw how it can work, and you gave reasons why he can pop. I'm just saying who will really not get owned. But he also has to struggle with the guys being more owned around him. I just feel like he would be in the secondary. Siwoo probably falls into the secondary for sure. Hadwin and Putnam and Montgomery will be owned. So, I mean, we can see where these builds are going.
Yeah, so let's try. The last thing I want to do is, can we build a Cantlay Sungjae lineup? Let's call it a Xander. You can sub in Cantlay or Xander. We just kind of said Cantlay's probably going to be more owned than Xander. Xander could get pushed by the wayside. People are going to play Sungjae. Could you do a double $10,000 build? Does that work? And what does it look like?
I think it's just exactly what we already built.
So it's like Duncan, Ryan Moore.
It's already built. Here, I got it. Oh, wow. It projects the best by 5 points. It's Cantlay, M. We used our Duncan play that we used to make the Scheffler one work, and you land on Smalley, EVR, and it's probably Schenk people go to, but like Nick Taylor's there, whatever you want to call it. But that's
so you can do. So Ryan Moore does kind of project out pretty well in terms of what people are doing. So if you go Duncan, Ryan Moore, 67, 69, you can then go Alex Smalley, and then you have $8,200 left, and you can play Bhatia or Taylor Montgomery.
I don't think anyone's going to play Ryan Moore. I don't see that.
People have been playing him. I played him in Mexico. He played really well.
The heater continues. We might be Ryan Moore week because I think you'll get away with it here. I don't think anybody's.
I don't personally want to play him, but
this is how the people build the builds. Though, is if they go 2 10Ks, they just jam the 7s. There's ways to mix the 7s around so you can just get 4 in, but you're not going to get too much different. Like the 2 6K would be unique for sure if you go with that build.
How about Johnny Vegas?
You talk about him. You brought him up pre-show, I think.
So Johnny Vegas, another one of those guys that was T2 at Palmetto, another former winner at this event. I didn't know what happened to him. I didn't realize he had like retired for a year, or if he was injured, what the hell happened to him. But he's $6,600 this week. Like, I would prefer to play Vegas over Tyler Duncan.
He missed the cut last week too.
He did, and he gained strokes off the tee. He gained 3 strokes on approach in 2 rounds for a guy who hasn't played well or hasn't played in a really long time. Dropped a stroke and a half around the greens, dropped 4 on the greens. Now, he sucks at putting, this we know. But he's won at this tournament before. Desert Golf Specialist, played well in Phoenix over the course of his career too. Just something about this style of play. And I think one thing that I would really, we can put in a less than driver type thing, but some guys still hit driver anyway. At the stadium course in particular, there are forced layups. So some of these guys that you think are a bit more wayward off the tee, if you're just exclusively sorting by accuracy, their accuracy is going to improve this week because they're just not going to be hitting drivers every single time. And once you get, one thing that Vegas does at an elite level and still does, like he always had, is generate eagle opportunities. And when you get them at La Quinta and you get them at the Nicklaus course, where eagles are up for grabs, he can make them.
Yeah, one thing I'd say, $1,300 more. You get a guy that missed the cut last week too. Willie Z, talent play. Just move him on. That's a good segue maybe to the crusher that was you against me head to head. Obviously that sucked. Do you have any other ones you want to build?
Yeah, I do, because I think I've put EVR into every single one of these. Of note, Nick Taylor is exactly the same price, and I will be. You know what? Instead of trying to pick between them, what if we played them both? Nick Taylor, EVR. I just want to try to see if I can find some of my guys.
I just think the thing is they all fit the same build. That's all I needed to know. Like we know where we're landing now. So if you pick those two guys, it's instead of Shank and EVR, you play Taylor and EVR. Instead of Shank and EVR, you play Taylor and Shank. You can do different stuff there for what people are doing, but we know where people are landing on these builds. I think there's, you got to find ways to get different here this week via construction, I think. Looks like everybody's landing on the same stuff or 2v2s away from it.
That gets me on Finau, but gets me off of Clark.
Siwu, Montgomery.
I'm just trying to see if I go Taylor, Van Rooyen, Montgomery, what I can get myself into here. What if I just go Bhatia? That leaves me with 97. I can play Day or Minwoo. Do you like Day at all?
Not really. I like your Minwoo take. Do you like Burns at all?
Not really, because I like Minwoo more.
Yeah.
I also really like Tom Kim this week. I mean, we didn't build a single lineup with Tom Kim in it, but I do really like him. Like, I could see starting my lineups if I could. Okay, so here's the one I just built, just because it has Taylor and EVR in it. Taylor, EVR, Montgomery, Kirk, Bhatia, and Minwoo. So Minwoo as the 9, you have 2 9Ks, 2 8Ks, and 2 7Ks, but they're both $7,500. So I'm going to enter that, and I'm going to flip this back out, have that same construction. I'm going to take EVR out. I'm going to take Bhatia out. I'm going to turn Kirk into Tom Kim. And now we're stuck with 7,500. So maybe EVR goes back in, or one of those plays near the bottom.
It's like your EVR Ben Griffin or something that you can fit in.
Or we just go Vegas, who I just mentioned, just see what's going on with him. Now we're back up to 84. Probably don't even need that much. I was going to see if we could just put Jagger in. What does that leave us? 71? Who would it be at 71?
Your boy Ben.
Ben Coles. Boom.
Let me see how bad
Guys,
this
good
projects. What do we got here? So it's Minwoo, read it top to bottom.
Minwoo, Tom Kim.
Oh, yeah, Tom Kim's in this one. Yeah, Coles,
Montgomery, and Jagger at 81 and 79. And then Nick Taylor.
Montgomery, Jagger, and Nick Taylor.
Now, I have a variation of this that I think is actually a lot better now that I look at it.
This is 14 off the original.
That would make sense, because there's no elite play. Like Tom Kim is your most elite player in this, right?
Yeah.
So enter that, and now I have...
Are you importing it again and just taking a couple guys out?
Yeah, I'm going to import it and get rid of Minwoo and drop him to Wyndham Clark.
So Minwoo goes to Clark. It already projects better.
Well, of course. It has Wyndham Clark in it.
Clark looks good.
And then you can take Ben Coles up to EVR.
Ben Coles up to EVR.
And then you can do whatever you want from in here. You can go Putnam Bhatia instead of Jagger Montgomery. You can keep Jagger Montgomery and leave $200 on the table. You can take Jagger. You can turn Montgomery into Hadwin if you wanted to. You can just kind of play around with that range.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that one too. So that's the thing about what we're noticing is a lot of these builds, there's just 2v2s off of all of them, because we saw it. Like it was that Cole and someone is now posting 76 and 73 is popular. So it's like, that's the difference between 88 and 9,100 with Cole and Poston. People can make that move. If they are up the board a little bit, it's that $700 that you get from Cantlay to Im. Maybe Tom Kim ends up being the leverage there, even though we thought he was going to be super popular to start the week and people bet him. It's like maybe it works out that Sungjae actually comes in more popular based on everything else. So we'll see. He set the record last time out, so people are talking about that for sure.
And he finishes T11 at this event every single year.
Yeah, which is, as we know, 1 or 2 strokes away from, they could all be T5s or all worse, but he's definitely found his stuff and he's back in it. So I could see that happening.
If you had to bet one of those guys, like I said, I'm between kind of like, I know that Sungjae has the worst odds, but he's probably, there's a reason that he has the worst odds between Minwoo, Im, and Tom Kim.
I got sucked into Tom.
You got sucked into Tom?
Because I don't really care, because I don't want to, I don't know. We'll see how it looks with the leverage and everything at the end of the week. Who knows where I end up? And we're going to do a draft and maybe end up on him. But I'm saying, like, I just felt better with the bet to start off, and people got him at 28 and I got him at 25. I think he's down to 20 or 18 in some places I saw now. So I took that and woohoo, CLV. We're good.
If Poston wins, people are going to win a lot of money this week.
Yeah.
I saw everyone bet Poston.
I saw everyone bet, Who was the other guy? JT. I think a lot of people bet JT.
Justin Thomas?
Yeah.
Really?
I think he was almost 30-1.
Yeah.
That's why.
Guys who don't play in Hawaii rarely win here.
It's true. 13 of the last 14. Trends. Hashtag trends.
Let's draft a lineup. Me versus you. Do you want to review last week?
You can do it throw it up if you want.
Yeah, well, I won. So every time that I win, we will review it. Every time that you win, we will
brush
pretend
it
like
under
it
the
just
table.
never happened.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way
But the
you do
winner
it.
gets first pick is the best way to do this. That's the deal.
There we are.
So that you get bragging rights, review rights if you want them, and you can have first pick in the draft. And then that way we'll end up on different guys, but we can talk through different constructions, why, and see what happens. This could be a fun experiment.
So, Paul, do you have the lineup from last week? There we are. Oh, with the money in the background.
Oh,
So
of course
there
he does. It's almost like he's your producer and you told him to do this and have it ready just to drop it on
Oh,
me.
he just did that on his own volition. I wouldn't even worry about that. So I mean, it's funny because you kept it very close with me, despite having Willie Z. Because this was the lineup that I actually played in the Big 150 as well. Kirk kind of scumbagged me towards the end. Nick Taylor missing 2 5-foot putts on the back nine wasn't super helpful. I mean, this lineup that I played against you was 6 of 6. Everyone was -3 or better at that time. And it came inside the top 5% of the Big 150.
What was your total points again?
I
can't see it from here.
I
My
can't
eyes
see
aren't
it.
that good. I usually have a look at it, but I was just curious. But if you don't know, that's why I was just wondering if my lineup that I played, my main King of the Desert one that ended up moving on, if it would have beat it, if I had just played.
533.50.
So you would have got me. I think I was 522.
So I would have advanced in King of the Beach with my main lineup.
No, King of the Desert, actually.
King of the Desert, sorry.
King of the Dessert, actually. That's the other
I
one.
bet you they probably have some nice desserts if you make it all the way to the
Oh,
end.
they do. Yeah, because DraftKings has that new sports book now out on there and whatever. We're going to get some tickets to get in that. Either way, I'll be down there for that weekend. If anybody's down there, it's going to be a fun time. Our crew, the Degenerate 75 crew, we're all going to be hanging out. Pop Stroke, the casino, at the course.
I was going to do that too. And I was like, hey, I should do the show from the DraftKings Sportsbook in Phoenix. They were like, no, you can go fuck yourself. They were like, yeah, no thanks, Pat. We don't want you around.
Take my hat off. No, it's good.
So I will start the draft with Taylor Montgomery will be my first player.
All right, I'm going to take Patrick Cantlay.
Okay. Does that mean you get the next pick?
Do you want? You can do it that way, or we can just go back and forth.
We can go snake draft style.
All right, I think people like that better too. So let me have a look here and see. I'm going to take. Guy we didn't talk about. I'm going to take Bo Hostler.
Really? So Bo Hostler, interesting, because I thought this would be like a great course for him too. Historically, it has not been. Not that you care about that, but I know that people will look into it. Overall, past 24 rounds, 4th most strokes gained in this field in general. He's played really well during the swing season. He had a second place finish at the Zozo. If we talk about dessert courses, he was T7 in Vegas, where Tom Kim won. He was 15th in Cabo. Those were his final 3 starts. Did not play last week, but when you take a look at his American Express, he's missed the cut 3 of the past 4 years and came 50th, and just he can't get his approaches going. Like whatever it is at this, because the strokes gained is only from the stadium course. He just sucks at the stadium course.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Maybe this year he goes nuclear there and we have a good week.
Maybe he needs to get himself into Pebble Beach, where he blew it one year, the year that Tom Hoagie won.
Blew the Houston Open that year too. That helped me out a ton. Remember Ian Poulter beating the chest, getting the Masters mistake that he fixed up.
So what do I want to do here? So it's your pick. So you went Cantlay Hostler.
Yeah.
So I will go. I like EVR, so I'll take EVR, and then I'll go with Wyndham Clark. So Montgomery, EVR, Wyndham Clark is my lineup right now. 2 picks to you with Bo Hostler and and Patrick Cantlay. So with the way that these 2 lineups are shaking down right now, I'm very clearly building a balance build type lineup, the one that I had kind of preferred when we were talking through the lineups. And because you have Cantlay, you're going to have to take a Smalley rider, someone from this lower 7s, I think, just with the way this is shaping up, to get back to that range that you like to be in.
Yeah, or because you haven't taken any of those guys in the mid-range right now, I could do that and then just figure out my values after, which is what I'm looking at right now. But I think for the spirit of just having a pick ready, I think
this is good. You can try to block me too.
Yeah, like you already have some of the guys in that range, so it kind of just ends up like getting a similar type build. So I'm trying to see if there's anybody above that I would rather go to. I just don't know if I don't know if I'll feel comfortable getting there. Let me try this. I'm going to take No, I can't do that. I was going to think about it, but it's too aggressive.
You can get aggressive. You took Willie Z last. Take him again.
I'm going to take Sung Jae.
Okay, Sung Jae. So you're going double $10,000. So
Yeah.
you get Sung Jae to pair with Cantley and Hostler. Now where are you going? Duncan?
Actually, I'm going to drop down and I'm going to trust the Ship It Nation course fit rankings and go with my guy Matthew Neesmith. Played pretty well last week. He pops in the rankings for us this week. Decent in the projections still, so I'm not against it. And I'll go with him. He's 6,700 as a T-Dunks pivot there. People want to go to T-Dunks this week, you can go to Matthew Neesmith, same price.
So Neesmith or Vegas, I think, would be the two. Neesmith.
I'm taking Neesmith.
Neesmith probably a bit more reliable. I bet you that if I do put in this like spike percentage or elite percentage per round, his elite percentage in iron play would be off the charts versus like the quality of player that he is.
Yeah, I didn't see how he ended up. I think the weekend was bad, but the first couple of rounds were okay. And then the other thing is he played in Hawaii last week, so Vegas would fit that, but I'll take my chances with Neesmith, trust the rankings.
Neesmith finished last of all players. In the
field. Bad weekend.
Yeah, he finished at a T80. He actually had a pretty decent swing, though. 25th, 42nd, 15th. It's been a while since so he made the top 15 at the Zozo in that condensed field. When do you think the last time he had a T20 before that was?
I'm looking at it, so I would be cheating, but I was looking at something else that you brought up was the spike round was in the last 4 weeks before, or the last 4 events before that he played. He had 63, 65, 66, 65, 66, like all kinds of those rounds. So it's like what you said, you're just hoping to get a couple of them here and have him be your guy at 6,700 over another guy like T-Dunks, and I need it to make Cantlay and Sung Jae work.
So he was T15 at the Zozo in Japan during the swing. His previous top 20 before that was at the Zozo the previous year. He was T9 and finished second the week before that in Vegas. So
we'll take it.
One to look at. So it's back 2 to me.
2 to you.
2 to me. So I have Montgomery, EVR, and Wyndham Clark. Just want to see what this looks like here. If I throw him in and I throw him in, what do I have left? I'm $100 short. I can't do that. Damn it. I will go with if I do that and that, what do I have? No, that's not enough. Just trying to work through how I want to cobble. I mean, the people can see it on the screen what I'm trying to do here with my final 3 picks, but you can't see it. So that's the important part. Okay, I'm going to take Chris Kirk. And I'm going to take Bhatia.
And I am going to take...
These are your final 2 picks.
I got to own you with your own guys. I'm going to take Ben Griffin.
Okay.
And Mathieu Pavon.
Oh, Mathieu Pavon. You should have taken Matty Schmidt.
No, that's fine.
That would have been the guy.
I'm gonna use. I like the case you made for Pavon's a real dude.
He might be. I mean, I didn't even think I made that case, but I said he could be a real dude.
Well, you listed all his DP World Tour results, which are very good. So
I have $8,300 for my final player. I'm between Hadwin, Putnam, and Jaeger.
So I just put a title on mine so I could see it. Who are your guys? Now, I know my projection, and I'm going to see what yours is. So who do you have so far?
Montgomery, EVR,
Wyndham
Clark, Chris Kirk, and Akshay.
EVR, Clark, Kirk, Akshay.
That would be the ones.
And the final pick at this price tag of $8,300.
I'm going to forego Hadwin.
Oh, man, really?
Should I?
Do you need to go crazy here? You got a pretty good lineup.
Yeah, you're right. I was going to take Jaeger over Hadwin, but I'll take Hadwin for this one.
All right. And I've got you by 11 points in the projection.
All right. Well, so that's a good thing that we don't just play this game on spreadsheets.
That's correct.
The guys actually have to go play.
It's like CLV and projections don't even matter sometimes. So good thing about that. I talk about it all the time, but like projections, we did this in the NFL season. I don't know if we talked about it yet for this PGA season, so I'll mention it quickly now, but like we use these as sort of a guideline, right? There's obviously just a piece of the puzzle. It's not just, have projections and win. That's not how it works, but you can learn a lot from the projections. And typically, Pat, that's how we're learning a lot about the ownership game of figuring it out, because if the projections keep jamming somebody into the lineups, you know that people that are going to use projections are just going to take that, finagle it a little bit, move it around. But now we know where sort of that ownership lands. You can help use the projections and still make good lineups against that. That's what we're trying to do here. Roster construction, correlation, if there is any, with courses and weather, and then obviously leveraging the field based on not just players and pivots, but also roster construction in general.
Want to take one last look at that Palmetto thing.
Okay.
because I did this last week because I threw it in the newsletter when I made a whole bunch of those different models. And the two that I looked at for last week, just to try to find outliers at the bottom. And it's funny because the answer ended up being, I looked at Bermuda and one other course. And the Bermuda guy was Carl Wan, who was just like, oh, that's weird. Just short Bermuda courses. Like, where do the scrub players in this field play, not against the elite guys who could pop up, kind of thing. He was one of them. So I just want to see if there's like a course we're not thinking about that could be one that might tell us something. It might tell us nothing, but it might tell us something. So Higo, Swafford's obviously on live. So from this field, is Doc Redmond playing this week?
I doubt it.
So Higo, Hadley, Vegas were the ones that popped up. Lipsky and EVR both finished inside the top 10 as well. And then inside the top 20, you have Bo Hostler, your guy. Seamus Power would have been a part of that crew. Scott Piercy, Danny Lee, some more live guys. That's kind of it. Just it wasn't a very strong tournament. Davis Thompson was T35, finished like second here last year or something like that.
Trying to see if there's anything else. I don't have anything else. I did have a note. Usually I keep notes each season in my phone, and for some reason my note for this tournament got deleted. I don't know how that happened, but it kind of tilted me a little bit. That was what I was looking for, but it did have something to do with when there was weather here, and it looks like this year, not much weather, so that's going to be a good thing as well. But yeah, I can't find anything else on this one.
Yeah, it's always tough trying to project, like you said, trying to project out the weather between three courses. Some of them are in canyons, some of them aren't blocked by mountains.
Oh yeah, and then like wind directions, all this other stuff comes into play. It just gets beyond what you know, probably too advanced to even mess around with, or too you're overthinking it too much. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Of note, I mean, with Sam Burns has played this tournament 4 times in the past 5 years. He's made the cut 3 of the 4 times with a T11, T6, and T18.
That range is definitely going overlooked.
I think that's what we come to the conclusion that, like, low, besides posted, almost everyone in the 9s and high 8s. Cole, it's funny that with all of the name power that's there, and maybe that will affect it by the time people actually make their lineups. They're like, I could play Eric Cole or Ricky or Finau. And right now, it looks like Cole is going to be like double what those guys are, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, Wyndham Clark. You already brought that one up.
Yeah, I think Wyndham Clark and Lowry, Minwoo, Wyndham Clark, Lowry, and Sam Burns. Some combination of those 4 guys, I think, is going to be critical this week. But you'll need 2 of them. Yeah. I don't know which 2 it's going to be.
Lowry would fit this mold for sure. Wyndham Clark fits this mold. Is there one more guy in the 7s that's like you think is just priced wrong? Like, I guess your Nick Taylor argument could be true. Like, he was. Yeah,
Nick Taylor's priced better on DraftKings, like in terms of pricing, than he is. Like, because realistically, if Montgomery is 55 to 1 to win this tournament, he's $8,200. If I even think that Nick Taylor, I think should be like 75 to 1 to win this tournament, not 150 to 1. But that would just place him right around Steven Yeager at 79. Like, he's not wildly mispriced. I think the number at 7,500 is better than his outright winning number. I mean, this is a guy who's won 3 times as well. Like, when he has his good weeks, he's really good.
What about this one then? This is like the disrespect lineup, but there is some reasoning to it. But you go with, you start with Sam Burns. He should be priced higher. Wyndham Clark, Shane Lowry, and then you don't like this, but it gets ugly, but Berger, Zalatoris, and last week's winner, Grayson Murray. These are all disrespectful prices for what they are and what they're capable of. It's just whether or not they actually come through. But I think that would be an interesting one to do and just to think about. Like, that's, if you're betting on talent and long-term versus this week, what's going to happen?
We talked about some of these guys in the bottom of the 7K range. And a name that kind of popped up, as I said, that people are going to play, but there's probably good reason for it, is Bezadenhout. Like, on paper, this is the Bezadenhout course. It's just fire at a bunch of pins, make a bunch of putts. And your distance doesn't really matter. You just have to hit fairways, which he does. And he played pretty well post-playoffs last year. Like, he WD'd from the Fortinet, then took a couple weeks off, came T6 at the Sanderson Farms. He was T9 at the Joburg in South Africa. He was T17 the week after in South Africa, played in South Africa again, was 3rd place. And that was against, like, Louis and the Live guys. So he's not completely out of form. He just hasn't played yet on the PGA Tour in 2024.
Could be a pivot off of Smalley there as well.
Matty Schmidt's the play.
Same price. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys, like say, you could make a case where Matty Schmidt would be one of them. Pavon, you talked about. Michael Kim, if he was thankful for Joel Damon there last week for sure.
I like that. I'd like to, if Michael Kim, could someone get in touch with his people? I would love to have Michael Kim on the show.
He probably would do it. He's following. I was saying this last night with Kenny, but he's trying to. It's like the Max Homa formula. It's like now he's becoming very likable on here. His posts are still, some are funny, some are informative. Goes with that. He's hoping to get that the Max run.
Like I do the course research show every single week. Even if Mike's got some time, 20 minutes on a Tuesday, I will talk to him about the next week's course. And I can add that into the research show of a guy who's played the course and is currently playing in the field. I think that'd be cool.
Everyone should tag him and just say, hey.
You should go on with Pat.
You should go on the PME and talk about some of the stuff. He loves your stuff. He just preached it on the show today. Go to this mark, or someone can clip this and then put you on there and show him that, hey, we like your stuff. Post on one of his recent threads and see if you can get him on. It'd be an awesome guy to have on your show.
Now this needs to be like the cold open because people would have had to last to an hour 23 into the show to hear this, which they won't.
So you put this to the start.
So I put this at the start.
I like that lately. That's a good move.
Yeah, I've been having fun with those.
Yeah.
It's less, honestly, it's less fun with you and I because you don't say completely insane things like Cuss does.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be up for that award anytime soon, but it's fun watching those guys being up for it because that's part of the enjoyment we all love. But yeah, it's good stuff. I like it.
Well, let's try to keep the heater going.
Let's do it. Carry it on.
So if you don't qualify for King of the Beach, how much do you win?
5,000. Same as you won last week.
Okay, so
that's what the min is currently. If I qualify, the min is it's a 15-person live event where last place is 10,000, first place is 500.
But you get the free trip to Phoenix.
And the trip and all. I mean, I'm already going, so it won't be much. I'll probably just be at the event now. Instead, would be for it. I want to go there and win the money, but I'm already going to be there, having a great time, excited. Anybody that's down there or wants to go or is already there, whatever, is welcome. We're going to be posting out an itinerary. I'll post it right out where we'll be at. We're covering drinks, food, things like that, having some fun with it. Ship It Nation, putting it on with Degenerate 75, a little collaboration we got going there. It'll be fun.
Basically, Ship It Nation, DGen, Friends of the Mayo Media Network, minus Pat Mayo.
Yeah, you should still come down. There's still time.
I'm going to Aruba.
That's right. I forgot about that. It's a good trip for you as well.
Yeah, my wife wasn't like, you should go to Phoenix before we go away for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So
you need a little getaway before the getaway.
Yeah, you can get away before the
sell
getaway.
her on that
before
one,
I come back
tough.
and be like, oh, my head hurts.
Yes, exactly.
I would actually go. I'd probably have to leave before Sunday to guarantee I got back so I could make my other flights.
Yeah.
Because if you leave it to the Monday and I'm leaving on the Tuesday, I might just get stuck in Phoenix.
Plan for it. We'll see. We thought of an idea for like a big season launch party for NFL next season.
Ooh.
That could be fun, right?
Are we doing it here? Are we doing it in Halifax, Nova Scotia?
I highly doubt it.
We
But
should.
we should do something here.
We can invite everyone here. I mean, depending on how things go, I'd like to have Kenny up. We can do the show in studio. We get Feinberg down. We can record here. Then we can go play like Cabot for 2 days or something.
That'd be awesome if we do something like that. I think obviously the President's Cup is something people are excited for. It's in Montreal. Obviously, we're going there
we're
for
going.
that. But that'll be fun to get like a trial version of what this looks like. Get the entire crew if we can together. I know Kenny dying to go to that. I'm sure Feinberg will be going. Everybody else, and do some shows from there, stuff like that. Should be a good time.
All right, that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. If you want to meet up with Tambo in Phoenix, you can do that. You can probably get in the door if you use code Mayo at Ship It Nation, because not only do you get the 10% off, you get in that draw for a free year or season-long pass to the PGA-only product. So I recommend that you do that. FantasyNational.com/Mayo gets you 20% off. She said we're adding some brand new tools very, very soon, so you want to get in. And plus, you can just use the product as it is. Like been using it every week for 7 years, and I won $5,000 last week. So
right.
You could too. If someone as bad as me can use those tools and win money, imagine, people, what you could do with those tools. And the Listeners League is now open, so please go play in that. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!